चीज दिखाई है जिसकी वजह से आता है।
ज्यादा उधर खड़ा हो। फातिमा दिया ये वाला लिखा आप लोग आगे चले गए। मैंने यहाँ पे चीजें रखी कैमरा आना है वो आप आगे पीछे भी लोगे से ये फोन आपका बड़ा
अब तो जाना तेरा तो जाना है
यार अगर बंद हो गया तो बंद हो गया तो
बंदा पहले बताता है, बंदा तुझे वो दे देता है यूपीएस दे देता है यूपीएस
फर्क रहा रखी गई
यहाँ बैठ सकते हैं इन चेयर्स पे। आगे का स्मेल आ रही है, हमारी वाली सीट से ना बहुत स्मेल आ रही है।
इधर से आ जाते हैं। और 1 में होगा
नीचे गया
जला दो अच्छा तो इथे रहना
Start very quickly. Let's have some silence. So let's welcome Zoya Bhatti, who's here from the UK. Zoya Bhatti is a socially engaged practitioner and producer working at the Institute, Lancashire, UK. Initially trained in youth work and community development, Zoya's practice now involves working collaboratively with artists and using creative methods within the community to increase opportunities, civic engagement, and improve outcomes for young people, families, and women in the local area, and to make access to art and culture more equitable in the town where she is also residing. So, let's welcome Zoya Bhatti. And incidentally, in situ, we've collaborated with in situ in the past. We did an exchange, and over 3 years, I took students from here over to Lancashire, UK, over 3 years, and your teacher GM was one of the students that I took with me. So welcome. So yeah, let's take you speak about.
Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. It's really great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, my name's Zoe and I'm a socially engaged practitioner and producer at a small local arts organisation based in Pendle. It's a small little town called Nelson Briarfield, but we operate in and around Pendle. So yeah, we're an arts organisation. We're actually a national portfolio organisation, which means that we've done a lot of work internationally, and we are a non-hierarchical organisation. By non-hierarchical, I mean that absolutely nobody in our team is the boss. It means that we operate on a basis of trust, and we operate on the basis that everyone is left to lead in their area of work, and there's that area of sort of trust that my colleague will complete whatever it is that they need to do in order to get the job done. So just quickly, right, what's an artist? Who can tell me what an artist is? Someone who creates art, yeah? Anything else? Anything else? Anyone? What does an artist do? Express themselves, absolutely. Anything else? Creative person, yeah, absolutely. So something that's quite key about my organisation in situ is that we like to go into underused spaces and take over them. And we like to test the space's potential with artists and creatives and practitioners. But what's really unique about us is we try and engage with the local community. So we have 2 youth groups every week, and we have a mums group that we engage with as well. And then we have other little artist talks that we do regularly in our area. So we've kind of developed this beautiful community of people that we can sort of tap into, and at the same time they reciprocate that by welcoming the artists into the area and allowing a natural process, an embedded process to take place where people are in dialogue constantly about what the area is about, what's the highlights of the area, how we can improve the area, some things that sort of niche to that area that someone as an outsider wouldn't necessarily know or would come to light with. So just to give you a quick example, so I began working for In Situ in around 2019, but I actually met them in 2016. So I was a relatively new mum then, and they were taking local mums on the bus to explore an area called Forest of Bowland. Now, Forest of Bowland is a stunning area that the Queen comes to every year just because it's such a beautiful place. And being in Pendle, I'm quite surprised that I'd never actually been to that area. And it was only once In Situ was involved in my life that I was able to go and visit these more sort of rural, affluent, beautiful, filled with heritage places. And then in 2019, I actually began working for them. So in the process of all that, so around 1940s, 1950s, when the partition took place in Pakistan, my granddad, my ancestors, they were taken over to, well, invited over to England to work in the mills. And Pendle is known as a post-industrial area where we have lots of cotton mills. So there was lots of weavers, lots of spinners, and the majority of the people that worked in those mills were South Asian Pakistanis. So people that travelled over from here, they were living in small houses, terraced houses, 2 up, 2 down, and there'd be sometimes up to 20 people in one house, and 10 would sleep and the other 10 would go to work, and then they would rotate that shift. Now, sort of 30 years on from that, because we lost the cotton mills in around 1960, 1970, 30 years on from that, my generation, we'd completely forgotten all about everything that had happened, the whole movement from migration, the whole, basis of where our income came from, where our households would run their homes from. And In Situ then kind of started exploring down at this mill, which was completely derelict. You couldn't go in there, it was filled with asbestos. And once in situ managed to get into the mill, just exploring, like there was an artist just simply drawing the mill. And then there was a guard that was working at the mill, and he gave her access to the mill and said, come and have a look, have a walk around. And as soon as in situ then started doing little activities in there, so students were invited to come and turn it into a skate park. Another bunch of students came along and they had like a food culture night. And then eventually, slowly, this space just became a real hotspot. So people started throwing money at it. Arts Council got wind of it as well. Big developers got wind of the space as well. So what we did was we had an artist come over from America called Suzanne Lacey. She too is a socially engaged practitioner, someone that I aspire to be like. And she then had a course of processes that involved tours, that involved interviews, that involved food, reconnection, lots of different works in that mill. So there was tours that were led, which meant that people that had moved sort of down Cumbria, down to London, would come back up to Pendle just to have that interaction with the mill again. And we were hearing all sorts of real stories and the real struggles that our South Asian families had been through in order to embed a life for people like myself in England. And only through this work was my generation and generation sort of after me able to connect with those stories. And I guess what other better way to do it than through art? So as soon as that project was over, as you can imagine, a massive investor came along, bought the mill, completely renovated it. It's now huge, lots of different flats. It's got 2 other arts organisations in there as well. It's also turned into like a storage space too.
So is this the mill that was then taken over by a pharmaceutical company?
No. This is Smith and Nephew's mill, so it's in Nelson, in Briarfield. And in situ I've actually been given a small space of the mill as well, which was called the garage, and we operate from there now. So we have turned the garage into a beautiful little studio space, a space where young people can come and hang out, a space for local moms to meet up and just chit and talk and chat and everything. And then we've also got 3 artist bedrooms upstairs. So regularly when we have artist commissions, our artists can come and stay in our building. And yeah, it's just one of those things that haven't really happened in Pendle for a long time, or for us. And this is all quite new for us.
Yeah, because when I went, all these mills and old buildings were taken over by the developers, and it was turned into housing.
Yeah, that's right. When did you come?
It's from 2011 to 20.
Yeah. So they would have been very sort of underused then, quite derelict. But yeah, they're all back, well, slowly getting back into use now. And I suppose something that we're really keen on is making use of these spaces that are in our town, and embedding that local element, and embedding that history, and embedding that archival vocal stories that can only be found through personal interactions. So something we're quite big on is art, ideas and connections. We try and base all our work on a really beautiful relationship of trust, and we have like an ethics policy as well. So whoever we work with, there's a real sort of ground of what we're trying to get at the interaction, what they feel they can gain from the interaction as well. And there's this whole community that's being developed from it, if that makes sense. So just to tell you a little bit why I'm here now. So in, I think it was 2017, we were quite blessed enough to end up with some money from Liverpool Biennial. I know Lahore Biennial's coming up as well, right? Yeah, so we had some money from Liverpool Biennial, and we were exploring the terminology around language. Now, coming into Pakistan, so I came last in 2017, but I came for my uncle's wedding. So as you can imagine, I spent all my time in Anarkali Bazaar and Fortress Stadiums and places like that. And I never really got to see, the spaces that I've seen now. So I stayed in Islamabad just recently for 2 weeks under a British Council residency that we've got. So 2 UK artists are kind of hooking up with 2 Islamabadi artists, and they have created some work in relation to translation. And something that's quite key about in situ is we see all of our projects, all of our ideas as an ever-evolving kind of thing. They never come to a stop. Things do kind of pause, but they're ever-evolving. We're constantly having those conversations. So this project actually came out of a project that we did in 2017, which was around language. Something that's quite big here, and my cousins here will tell you as well, which is quite funny, is Urdu's become a real thing here in Pakistan. And the power that language holds is pretty amazing. But at the same time, the structural hierarchy that it holds can sometimes be quite damaging, I think. I mean, being here, I've really struggled. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm quite confident with my Punjabi. I will splurt it out wherever I can, however I can, and if you don't understand, that's your problem. But it's amazing how things have changed. See, in Nelson, we had this conversation about how, you know, a lot of us travel here to Pakistan with so much love and so much sort of feelings around diaspora, wanting to connect with our roots and our heritage. But then we come here and we're classed as, you're from the UK, you're Londoners, you're Manchesterers. So it's like, where do we sit? Where does all this sit? And then obviously in the UK, we're not white, we're not British, we're South Asian Pakistanis. And then we come here and it's like, neither gay, it's like, where do we sit? Where do we belong? So this whole project was done to explore the South Asian diaspora communities and where we feel we sit and kind of can embed our story on the global map. If that makes sense. And I guess this project now that we're here for, through British Council, is the step 2 of that, you know? So Nelson is 20% most deprived in the whole of the UK. So the young people growing up in Nelson, they are in the 20% most deprived in the whole of the UK. And then just 15 minutes away from us is a place called Clitheroe. And that's in 20% least deprived in the whole of the UK. And it got me thinking, like, why is that? Why do we have that? And you know, you go into Clitheroe and there's people doing all sorts of careers. They are explorers. They go and take people out on long, sort of, what do you call them, tours, on little sort of expeditions of their area, telling their own personal stories. There's a lot of artists, there's a lot of creatives. Whereas in Nelson, it just wasn't that. We weren't pushed to be creative, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me right now that us South Asians, we don't really push people to go towards the artistic line of work, do we? It's like become a doctor or a solicitor and that's it. Otherwise, nothing else matters. So there was that same mindset within Nelson. And as I delved deeper and deeper and deeper into all of it, it's generational trauma. You know, there's a lot of stuff that our families have seen and gone through that we wouldn't even, like my day's generation, would not even be able to imagine. And they've lived through that and they've paved the way for us to get to a stage where we no longer can imagine. And that saddens me because all of this has happened and it's not left its mark. So now I'm dedicating a lot of my work to bringing those South Asian voices back into the frame and really amplifying and providing that platform for South Asian Pakistani people to showcase and share their craftsmanship, their artistry, their heritage, and be able to be at it with a point where they're able to vocalise it on an international scale. So the residency in Islamabad looked at how the artistry and craftsmanship is at the very core of Islamabad. And it was how we, as South Asians, as artists, could translate that and take it back home. So there's a lot of efforts right now in the UK about admitting where we've gone wrong. Things like, you know, Britain just kind of going into places and spaces and taking over. And we're really working on that. But one thing I feel is that we're at a stage where Pakistan really don't believe us yet.
And until these things start progressing and we start having more of these dialogues and more of these conversations, it won't happen. So it's about raising that awareness amongst our communities with it all. Yeah, so just a little bit more about like my organisation is that we have a flat pay structure. So everybody's paid the same, from the director right through to engagement and participation lead, creative lead, criticality department, everybody right through to the cleaner who comes in and cleans the building for us. Everyone is paid the same rate per hour. And the underlying sort of ethos behind that is that everybody is pouring their time into this one vision around in situ and this one idea around wanting to create and sustain socially relevant art that makes a positive difference to people's everyday lives, something that's seen as an art of action and something that challenges current thinking about people, places, environments and culture, and for our art to be a real stance and true to itself and authentic. Does that make sense? Yeah, good stuff. I'm getting a few nods. Can I just check what time we're on?
We have about 1:40.
Great, okay, cool. So I'm just going to play a quick film to give you an idea of...
Like 10 minutes?
Of course, I definitely do, yeah. Yeah, let's do that. So, you said we have 20, yeah?
20 in all.
इसका प्रश्न इसको हर चैलेंज की रैंक करते हैं इसलिए मैं ऐसे देती हूँ नेक्स्ट टाइम यूज करने ये प्रश्न टू ग्रो
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Obviously, my child will be with your grade PhD and don't consider about it. So I would be affected things. There was a very big group, not small. So the kids dropped out, the parents dropped out. So it's just left us about 10 to 12 months. And from there, Jenny Rush introduced us to all partners and started working for. There was a project came with the nephews. From there, we met Susan Lisa and John. Then they have a project about Smith and Nephews, what to decide what to make out of it.
We were part of the decision making, weren't we? They had funding and they called all the local community to come and decide what they wanted to do with the funding. So in situ took us to a big wedding mechanic. At the same time we were part of the decision making. There was votes going on and different ideas, so we had 3 jobs. We were at different tables deciding what they should do with the funding, and that was a proud moment because we were just like, we weren't behind the scenes, we were actually making decision making, and what we said, we actually took that into consideration that, that does make sense, and then we had advantages and disadvantages, and we went all along that journey with them, so we weren't like, they just called us on 2 events and said, oh, that's it, right to the end, we do like, when they decided what they wanted to do. And even the celebration at the end of we had 500 people for the banquet. And proud of that because we were actually there. And we raised the caterers, the setup on the stage, and everything. So that made us proud. And it was just like from start to finish, we saw it. That was a proud moment for us all. And it all happened because we did this project in situ.
To put it back to Smith and Nephew, where we talked about all his work in the past, so what we need just as factory where our fathers used to go to work, for it to become this, and to be involved in it was a very good thing.
I think the celebration was important.
Yeah.
Like, from that factory, it was appreciated what they did for us.
Yeah.
And
it was a livelihood of many, of everybody
in this area.
So.
Because they didn't have only job opportunities in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think they only
Because
of the language barrier and everything. And I think that was nice, and I think we used to close the celebration to their life, like they devoted to us.
Yeah. And thank you.
Thank too, yeah, the hard work.
Yeah.
And it was nice, I think most important was where they actually used to work, like obviously they've seen it in a different light, we saw it in a different light, because they saw it when all the machines were there, but we just saw the empty space. So we can only imagine how they used to work, conditions, and how hard they used to work. So I think that open space left us for our imagination, how we thought, how they used to come here and their thoughts, how they used to come here and work and things like that. We don't know what they were going through when they used to go to work, but we just found an open space to start, create our own imagination in our own head. I think in situ is open to everyone and anyone, from any background, any age, everything. And I think in situ has given a lot of people the confidence to actually go out and explore, or in their own little world. It's given that confidence, independence to do things for themselves. First, like people are confident on the internet, but all like a family now.
Yes.
Instead of being friends, I think we will call it a family now.
Yes.
Even the staff, the members of the public.
What is confidence as well?
Yeah.
When I'm sad, when I go there and talk to them, then after them I feel myself, oops, I have family, because I have nobody here as well.
Like I'm Amsterdam, and I just like listening to him. I said, go out to the gym. And meeting you lot, I always is much better.
I always look for Monday or Wednesday. It doesn't matter which day, I'm happy to go.
And I think the projects that they do, like obviously, anyway here, but 40+, you look at that from a very different perspective. Kids have grown up, it's like you've got more me time. Whereas when the kids were young, it was more like, oh, we have to run around with the kids, do this. Now, we're thinking about our health, our well-being, and it's just nice. And what they cover is something that we're thinking about, isn't it? It's become our life, and we might stay going to the groups and any projects that they have in the actual windows. We've got this project going on. We're really excited. It's not like, oh, do we have to do it? It's not, oh, yes, we've got another project to do. So there's always different projects in situ.
And putting up that we haven't lost it.
And we can rely on those.
We can rely on those. We rely on them.
We don't practice.
It's like last time when we did the food, we do all one dish and then we eat together. There was music. That was so nice,
From
out of the yes.
Food brings you together. In any culture, they said food brings you together.
Yeah, that's true.
In situ, open a lot of doors, I think, really. Because, like going to Poland and going exploring, where else did we go?
We go to waterfalls.
You go to waterfalls, caving, things that were on our doorstep that we didn't know. And through in situ, the trips that we used to take on, we saw them things.
We went to the forest as well.
We discovered garlic.
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 And that's how we came there.
Yeah.
Kerry from in situ, she actually took us and explained that these are edible flowers, these are not edible. So now when we go, we tell our kids, oh, that we can not eat them, we don't have to. So they give us a knowledge, I think of life differently than I did before.
Coming to institute, what I've learned is going for exploring. Instead of going to gym, I'm going to long walks, looking at the plants, picking blackberries up, and watch the frozen lawns for the rest of the year. So that's being aware, creating loads of awareness stories. Before it used to be, put the kids to bed, cook, clean, that's what we did. And now we do that, but I think we do it in moderation. We're taking some time out for ourselves, meeting friends, bring up ourselves first, having that little bit of confidence, that approaching people, asking them help, lots of things happening sometimes.
I think it's around the corner.
Yeah.
That we didn't even know were there, in the last 2 hours. We caving. Would I be caving? No.
No.
Was it good when we went? It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
We went to the waterfall. That was amazing. We took our little nephew with us, he's only 4 years old. And we did like 17,000 steps. And just amazing. Nature, all the waterfall, and just incredible.
And we will do that on a week, during the week, if we were at home, we just housewives, so we're going to introduce you in situ.
Close that there, 'cause it is a pretty long video, and anyone that wants to watch it, it's on YouTube anyway. So yeah, we really do believe that art doesn't have
any limitations as to what it can do or what it can provide for somebody, and then the ripple effect of it amongst its communities as well. Another thing that we're quite passionate about is removing or challenging the word, removing or challenging the terminology around marginalised communities. So we have developed policy where we look at any type of discrimination and see how we can remove our prejudices that are tied to that part of discrimination, and really try and look at ourselves or create ourselves to stand as an ally for all these types of situations, people and communities that may feel like they are not in the centre stream or main light. That's something that's really important to, I think, everybody really amongst our team, and it really does put us in difficult situations as well sometimes. You know, being South Asian, I know we all culturally and religiously hold our own views around certain, you know, communities, certain places, certain spaces, but it's very, very important that we understand that there's two levels to all of discrimination. Number one, there's a level of where you have your opinion and you have your views, but then there's a level of trying not to do any harm and just ensuring that we continue to work in the same way with everyone, regardless of their background, beliefs, or anything else that they stand for, if that makes sense. Great.
Mr. Shetty, have some questions?
Sure, yeah, let's have some questions. Yeah.
The structure of the organization that you described, is that what's called like a workers' cooperative? Is that something different?
So it's called a non-hierarchical organisation, and yeah, it is kind of really challenging those traditional structures where you'll have, you know, a manager and then a supervisor, or assistant manager and then a supervisor. The whole idea is that everybody's time is valued, and we are removing the removing the importance of somebody having an experience in something. We believe that everybody has the ability to be artistic and creative if only they're given a platform to voice those ideas and suggestions, and those suggestions are heard too. And we feel that this would have been a perfect way to enable those types of fresh, new ideas to come forward. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, thank you, good question. Any more questions? Yeah, sure.
You talked about the diasporas and their overall identity and how the art brings the people of South Asians together, even though they're scattered abroad. How do you think they feel about the artifacts that are currently in the British Museum? There are more than 300 of them. Even though it's a good reminder of their heritage and where they come from, but do they think that they belong to their homeland, or do they think it's something that unites them wherever they go in the museum?
Like I said, this is a huge conversation right now in the UK around what's ours and what's not ours. Also where I place myself within all of that, you know, I mean, what do I class as mine? Yeah, there's huge conversations that are happening, and there's lots of raising awareness around different issues, and lots of people holding their hands up as well and saying, look, we're ready and happy to have this conversation. I do think that something that needs to happen around this, which is key, is that there needs to be more international connections. We can only bring light onto this topic if there's enough opinions and voices in the room around it all. But it's a really good question that comment that you've made there, and it's something that a lot of arts organisations in Pendle and East Lancashire as a whole are trying their best to address and look at. We have something called Arts Council, which is where In Situ get a lot of their money. So we're a national portfolio organisation, and it then secures us for like 4 years or 5 years, and we're able to have various different strands. So at the moment our strands are environment, intercultural relationships, and the future of work. So a lot of our work in the intercultural relationships involves something called Tokyoke, which is a massive round table, and we go and set it up in places like parks or town centres, and anyone is allowed to kind of just come and sit around that table and talk about absolutely anything it is that they want to talk about. We sometimes air that live as well on television, just so there's that real, broad platform for people to share and air their views as such in a safe and comfortable way. So I guess, yeah, those conversations are happening, and you guys are the future. And you guys are the people that are going to totally delve into these things a little bit deeper, because the information and the research is happening now. And I guess only in time to come will it be able to come to a point where we've pieced all of this together and able to bring a bit of a memory mind map of all of these artifacts and all of these bits of history that the British Empire and the UK education system don't really like to acknowledge or even amplify. But it's definitely happening, and I'm glad we're at a stage where the conversations are happening.
And the museums are trying to decolonize.
Yes, big time. Yeah, it's happening. I mean, I was quite surprised to go into the museum near NCA, and there was a huge, sculpture of Queen Victoria as well, and it felt a lot of it felt very British.
It used to be on the market when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was very scared of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a scary looking thing. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, another thing I'm quite surprised of is even in places like Rawalpindi, so we have this beautiful tour as a part of the British Council work, and all these big havelis had the typical British crown sort of engraved in all the buildings. So yeah, Britain has a lot to talk about. Any other questions? No?
I wanted to ask, In Situ is the name of the mill that you have?
No, In Situ is the organisation, yeah, and the mill that we worked in was called Smith and Nephews Mill, and it was in Briarfield, Nelson in Lancashire. So Lancashire had like something like, it was 2,000 mills, so it was the second largest producer of cotton in the whole world. And then, can anyone guess where those machines went when the mills closed and all the Pakistanis came over to England? Anyone guess where the machines went? Just take a guess. They were exported, yeah. They went somewhere very near to home.
India?
No, Pakistan? Yeah, exactly. So those machines that the British, brought all these families over to work on, once the mills closed, those machines were then sent over to Pakistan for people to work on.
Sent or sold?
Sorry?
Sent or sold?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I imagine they will have been sold. Yeah. I don't think British people would give anything for free.
These entries were made when cotton was imported.
Yeah.
From subcontinent and then from
That's right, yeah.
But then when Britain realized what was happening to the environment, everything was then sent back.
Sent back, absolutely.
To clean up the environment.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's just a service industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Made outside of the
Yeah. So these small pots of places like Nelson, Briarfield, being post-industrial towns, are really lacking identity and struggling to find their sort of niche and marketing area. Yeah, a lot of issues, but I think it's somewhere that's really filled with a lot of pride. Pakistanis take a lot of pride in the area, and they're very proud of the fact that they're from Nelson, and that's something that I experienced in Islamabad, also in Lahore as well. Everyone seems very proud to be from the places that they're from. Yeah.
A lot of these
A lot of Mirpuris, yeah. A variety of castes, really. So my story generally, so I grew up in Colne, which is a neighbouring town to Nelson, so very white, middle class society. All my friends were white. And then I moved to Nelson when I was like 12 or 13 and had this major culture shock, like, damn, this is what I am, this is Pakistanis. And then eventually began and just had this real natural love to learn about my culture a little bit more, which I guess, fits in really well with my interests too. But yeah, Nelson was a real hot spot. There's an artist that's been over from Islamabad recently, and is there something called kitsch? What does kitsch mean? Can anyone tell what kitsch is? Kitsch. See, it's a term that I didn't know of. It's one of your terms. It's a Pakistani terminology.
So, rock art, for example, was considered
kitsch. Yeah.
I would say that we could classify it as maybe or like too out there.
Yeah.
Even it could even be like a sort of discrimination against classes as well.
Sure. It's something like trying too hard, isn't it? Yeah. Was there something else?
I would say it's popular.
Yeah, so an artist from Islamabad described Nelson as kitsch because as you step into Nelson town centre, you'll find these massive, like you see the bazaars and the big 50% sale in all the little iconography places. Nelson kind of mimics that because the people that are in Nelson are still very much living with the same mindset and the same culture as they were 40 years ago here in Pakistan. And obviously realising now that coming back to Pakistan's totally moved on since then, and it's a completely different area, space, place, with tons of opportunities and some real extreme talent as well. Being here, I've met some amazing professors. I mean, language is always talked about in the UK about how it holds power and it holds hierarchy. But engaging with this one professor, I don't know if you know him, Asim Akhtar, quite a big one, and he described language as a weapon, which I'm totally taking back to England with me, because it totally can be a weapon. And yeah, for me it's all about ensuring that people's voices are given that same platform as anyone else's, regardless of whether you speak Punjabi, Urdu, Patwari, English, broken English, it doesn't matter. Everybody has the ability to be creative, if only they're given the tools. Yeah? Thank you, everyone. Is there any more questions? No? Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you.